There's some exciting news I'd like to share. Since the site of Noah's Ark was discovered in the mid-1900s, many people have been wanting to excavate it. But for one reason or another, the doors have remained closed. Perhaps the time wasn't right. Maybe God was holding back these efforts until the excavation of the site would have the maximum impact. Today, with all that's happening in our world, has the time finally come for God to reveal the Ark to this dying planet? Come with me and I'll show you how God has been providentially leading to open the way for a government authorised dig on Noah's Ark in Turkey. So let's review the evidence as to why this site is Noah's Ark. For that we go to the Bible. And a quick recap of the story as found in the Bible. Noah had preached for 120 years that a flood was coming. The Bible calls him a preacher of righteousness. However, most people rejected the message. The flood came and the vast majority of the world were lost. Noah and his family were saved in the ark. And for more than a year, they floated upon the waters of the flood. Finally, the ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat. The door was open and the animals that had been on board were released and repopulated the world. So if this is true, we should be able to find that vessel somewhere in the mountains of Ararat today. Now the Bible says specifically the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. Now that word translated Ararat there is also translated in the Bible as Armenia. And that covered a large area we can see here in eastern Turkey, right into Iran and Iraq, and up into the modern country of Armenia. In fact, Josephus records this. He says the Armenians call this place the place of descent. For the ark being saved in that place, its remains are shown there by the inhabitants to this day. And notice this, it is said that some part of this ship in Armenia still remains there in the mountains of the Chaldeans. Now many people have believed that this mountain must be Mount Ararat in Turkey. And we can see in this picture here, this is Mount Ararat, a very large volcano. But the true site, we believe, is about 30 kilometres to the south of the peak of Ararat. This site was spotted by an aerial photograph in 1959, and it was published in Life magazine. The magazine article asked the question, Noah's Ark, a boat-like form is seen near Ararat. The article also described the expedition that went to the site in 1960. You can see here the expedition, the soldiers, the horses, etc. After about a day and a half of poking around, they even used some black powder to blow a hole in it, but they didn't find what they were expecting to find. So most of the people thought, no, it's just a natural shape in the ground. However, not everybody agreed with that assessment. The site was left abandoned for 17 years until, in the late 70s, Ron Wyatt and his two sons explored the area and relocated the site. Ron began a decade of research on the site, including radar scans, laboratory analysis, and his findings were very impressive.
What we actually have found is physical evidence that this is a boat. Whether or not it's Noah's Ark is up to the people that review the material. That's up to them to decide on that. My personal feeling is that it is Noah's Ark.
Some of the evidence that Ron found, for example, was this fossilized rivet, which you can see here. This is exactly what you'd expect to find from metal fittings that have been petrified or fossilized in the ground after thousands of years. Ron's radar scans revealed internal structure, systematic lines, and when the scan results were shown to the manufacturer of the radar unit, they said this has to be a man-made structure. The radar showed an object near the surface, and the governor of Agri at the time said, we need to dig this up, and so it was excavated and it revealed this here, a petrified piece of perhaps deck timber. This is laminated wood. And when this had a corner cut off, you could see here the 3 separate layers. This was petrified laminated wood. Nowhere else in the world has petrified laminated wood been found. This is clearly human engineering. Ron also was allowed to drill holes into the site. Where the radar revealed voids, he was able to drill into the site and take soil samples. And these soil samples contained some very significant evidence, such as animal hairs. Here we find a coprolite or a petrified animal dropping. Here was found a piece of an antler. Some animals grow antlers annually and they shed them every year, and this was a piece of an antler. After all this evidence, the governor of the area said, "This is Noah's Ark. What else could it be?" And the mountains of Ararat, the right length, the evidence that's coming out. So the governor of Agri at the time declared this to be Noah's Ark National Park. Ron was guest of honour at the opening of the Visitors Centre.
It was on June 21st, 1987, that a ceremony was held on the mountain to commemorate the site as Noah's Ark National Park. Dignitaries from around the country assembled to break bread and celebrate this wonderful find. The governor, military officers, and other key officials were participating in a celebration of discovery because of the extensive work that he had accomplished at the site. The Visitor Center would welcome guests from around the world to gaze upon the Ark. As concrete was placed in the foundation by the governor and by Ron Wyatt, excitement was in the air.
And you can see the Visitors Centre that was open to this day just above the site here. Here's the site and here's the Visitors Centre. So could this be the Ark? Does it match up with what the Bible says? How long was the biblical Ark? Well, the Bible says the Ark was 300 cubits. Now it's interesting, the Bible itself mentions 2 different cubit lengths. For example, here in Ezekiel it talks about a long cubit, that cubit being a cubit and a handbreadth. Now it's interesting that this passage was written by Moses. We read in the book of Acts that Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Now the Egyptians had a cubit that was longer than the Hebrew cubit. Most people have assumed the Ark was 450 feet long based on the Hebrew cubit. But Moses, when he wrote, used the cubit that was known in Egypt and later used in Israel up until the time of the Babylonian captivity. Today we call it the Royal Egyptian cubit. And this is known exactly the length of this because they find these in tombs in Egypt. And in fact, the Egyptian cubit, we're told, was the universal standard of linear measurement in the very ancient world. This was the cubit that came off the Ark and today is called the Royal Egyptian cubit because it was retained there. So if we measure the site in Turkey, it's 157.1 meters long. If we measure it using the Royal Egyptian cubit, guess what? It happens to be exactly 300 Egyptian cubits long. Now if this site wasn't, if it was 400 or 250, we could say this can't be the Ark. But the fact that it happens to be exactly 300 of the cubits that were used in the early days of the Old Testament, this shows this site is worth investigating further. What other evidence points to this being the remains of Noah's Ark? My brother Keith did some magnetometer readings. These are the points around the site that he took readings, and when we calculated the results, it showed clearly a concentration of metal, especially at the top end of the site. We've also done our own radar scans. This is my friend Anders from Norway. Here's the site in the background. Anders brought along a very nice modern radar unit, and here you can see with the GPS antenna taking readings of the site. We're able to scan quite thoroughly in the center part of the Ark here. And the results were interesting. You can see here, here's the surface level, and it's showing very periodic, very evenly spaced, more dense material. This is exactly what Ron White found on his radar scans as well. So what are these readings that we're finding here? Well, the ark was basically designed to take many animals. The ark actually had rooms in it. Noah was told in Exodus 6:14 he was to make rooms in the ark. Now it's interesting, that word rooms is translated usually as nest or a chamber, for example. So Noah was told to make chambers or rooms or nests, if you like, for the animals that were taken on board. And what the radar could be showing are these rooms, the partitions between the rooms. Why hasn't the site been excavated? People have tried. In fact, Ron Wyatt talks about maybe the time wasn't quite right, even in his day, for the site to be fully excavated.
But I think everything is on a time schedule, and I believe that when the time is right, these things will be brought out.
So even in Ron's day, the time wasn't right, but maybe the time has come. Where are we going from here? Let me tell you the exciting developments that are leading to an excavation of the site. In April 2016, I had a trip to Saudi Arabia, a very productive trip, very interesting. Then we went to visit Hassan, who was the retired custodian of the Visitors Centre. He's an old friend of ours and he has helped us many times over the past. Then I had a meeting with Umit Urisi here. He's a government archaeologist. I was introduced to him by my friend Murat Shahin here. And then we went to visit the governor, the latest governor of Agri. This man, Musa Eason, is holding the same office as the governor was back in Ron Wyatt's day when they declared this to be a national park. And we spoke to Musa Eason, the governor, and explained some of the evidence that's been found, why this is Noah's Ark and why it should be excavated. And we asked, what can we do to excavate the site? And he said, yes, this should be excavated. He was all in favour of this, and we were thrilled. This finally, someone at a high government level wanted to move the work forward. In February 2019, I visited the site with my good friend John Wiltshire, who's a partner at a law firm, and we caught up with Murat once again. You can see what the site is like in winter time. This is February, and you can see the site is under snow here. We went to visit a professor of archaeology at Kars University, Ayhan Yardimsyil. Here he is here. Ayhan teaches archaeology at the university, and we shared with him the evidence, the results of the scans, the sample testing, and he had never seen this evidence before. He knew of the site but hadn't seen the evidence that shows that this really is the remains of Noah's Ark. After seeing that evidence, he said, look, here's what I'll do. I will apply to Ankara myself for permission to undertake a scan of the site. And if we get good results from that scan, we will invite you to become part of our dig team when we apply for the excavation permit. I was thrilled. Finally, at last, we found someone who could open the way, and he began his applications to Ankara. In April 2019, Murat called me and said, you need to be back in Turkey this week. We've been invited to an important meeting in Ankara. We'd been invited to a symposium held by TUTAP. TUTAP's an organisation, a non-government organisation, that works with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture in Turkey and also UNESCO to develop World Heritage Sites. And this symposium was about a site called Göbekli Tepe. This is considered by many to be the oldest site in Turkey, and it had just become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now the symposium was sponsored by Turkcell, which is a major telecommunications company there, Halk Bank, perhaps the biggest bank in Turkey, Anadolu Jet, which is a major airline, and TRT, which is Turkish Radio and Television. Now other United Nations or UNESCO World Heritage Sites you can see marked with these numbers here. For example, the library at Ephesus, where the church at Ephesus was. Also, for example, the city of Troy there, number 9. These are all sites recognised by UNESCO. But one site that TUTAP has on its radar, which is not yet a World Heritage Site, is this one here, Noah's Ark. And so we listened to the president of TUTAP speak, and after the meeting he came and spoke with us. Now, Fikret Yildiz is the president of TUTAP, and he frequently appears in Turkish media. As you can see on these clips here, here he is talking to various Turkish media about the work that TÜTAP does. He's quite a well-known figure in Turkish media. So he is the face, he's the president of TÜTAP, the organisation. And at the end of this evening, the symposium, he came and spoke with us. Here he is with us and said, "Welcome. You're here to help us develop the Noah's Ark site." And that began a process. Back at the headquarters of TÜTAP, we negotiated with Fikret over several days and finally signed an agreement with him that we would cooperate with TÜTAP to develop the Noah's Ark site, which would include excavation, scanning, everything needed to develop the Noah's Ark site to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then Fikret invited me to become part of TÜTAP itself, and I gladly accepted the invitation. In fact, you can see me on the official TÜTAP website. Here I am as the representative for New Zealand. We then took Fikret across to Eastern Turkey and showed him the site, and we showed him the anchor stones in the village of Arzap, and he said these need to be put in a museum to preserve them. These anchor stones, discovered by Ron Wyatt in the late 70s, are believed to have been used on the Ark to give it stability in the rough waters. Fikret has been negotiating with the Minister of Tourism and Culture to secure the permits needed for the scan and excavation, which will be as we move forward in the project.
Evet, şu anda Doğu Beyazıt'ta bulunmaktayız. Buraya geliş amacımız hem İshakpaşa Sarayı hem de Nuh'un gemisi alanı olarak bilinen yerde çalışmalar yapmak. Tabii İshakpaşa Sarayı turizm ve tanıtma platformu olarak bizim proje kapsamında yer almaktadır ve burayla ilgili Kültür ve Turizm Bakanlığımızla birlikte işbirliği yapmaktayız. Tabii Yeni Zelanda'dan gelen çok değerli dostumuz Patterson ve arkadaşları burada Nuh'un gemisiyle ilgili yaptıkları çalışmalara çok önem vermektedir. Bizim için de çok önem arz ediyor çünkü neticede Nuh'un gemisi bütün dünya insanlarının ilgisini çeken çok önemli bir merkez. Bu merkezin tanıtılması hususunda da resmi makamlarla bütün resmi girişimleri ve bu alanda atılacak bütün adımları turizm ve tanıtma platformu olarak bizler gerçekleştiriyoruz ve kendilerine her türlü desteğe vermeye de hazırız. Bugün olduğu gibi bundan sonra da devam edeceğiz çalışmalara birlikte. İnşallah Nuh'un gemisi alanı da elde edeceğimiz kazı çalışmaları sonucunda elde edeceğimiz bütün materyaller, veriler ışığında UNESCO Dünya Miras Geçici Listesi'ne alınması hususunda da gerekli girişimlerde bulunacağız. Ben o bakımdan Patterson ve arkadaşlarına çok teşekkür ediyorum. Ayrıca bizim Doğu Anadolu Bölge Koordinatörümüz Sayın Murat Şahin'in de girişimleriyle tabii bu organizasyonlar gerçekleşiyor. Ben Murat kardeşime de buradan huzurlarınıza teşekkür ediyorum, saygılar sunuyorum.
Here you can see myself and Fikret and Murat at the site. This is the leadership team, if you like, of this project. And this letter here indicates my position within TÜTAP. TÜTAP produces a magazine called Barinci. You can see here the Barinci magazine, the flagship magazine of TÜTAP. And here it says Nuh'un Gemisi, which is Turkish for Noah's Ark. And you can see here an artist's concept of the Ark overlaid over the site, indicating we believe this is the Noah's Ark site. Inside the magazine you'll see a picture of myself next to the site, and also a picture of the symposium where we met TÜTAP for the first time. At the end of 2019, TÜTAP negotiated a protocol with Anadolu University. Anadolu University is the #1 ranked university in all of Turkey. It has over 20,000 students on campus and close to 2.5 million students enrolled for distance learning. Here I am meeting the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Tourism, and here's Fikret negotiating with the Rector of the university. This protocol is a working agreement between the university and TÜTAP for the work on Noah's Ark. Now, the excavation of such an important site as Noah's Ark will draw a lot of interest, and by its very nature a lot of criticism as well. Therefore, the excavation of such an important site has to be done correctly. To have the maximum credibility, it will be done with the full cooperation of the Turkish government and academic institutions.
Destek olan turizm ve tanıtma platformunun girişimleri ve resmi başvuruları neticesinde Nuh'un gemisi olarak bilinen bu alanın hem tanıtımına hem de bilimsel verilere ulaşabileceği hususunda çok faydalı olabileceği düşüncesindeyim. Burada elde edilecek veri ve bilgilerle bu önemli alanın UNESCO Dünya Miras Geçici Listesi'ne alınması yolunda sonuç alınacağına inanıyorum. Bu konuda emeği geçen başta turizm tanıtma platformuna, Patterson'a, Murat Şahin Bey'e ve Kültür Bakanlığımıza bir arkeolog olarak çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bunun ülkemizdeki diğer alanlara ve bilim insanlarına örnek olmasını temenni ediyorum.
İsmim Buket. 21 yıldır Tabiat Tarihi Müzesi'nde arkeolog olarak çalışıyorum. Aynı zamanda ressamım. Benim için çok önemli projelerden biri Göbekli Tepe'ydi. Göbekli Tepe'den sonra Doğu Anadolu Bölge Koordinatörümüz Murat Şahin Bey ile birlikte TUTAP olarak hep birlikte şimdi Nuh'un Gemisi projesiyle Türkiye'mizi dünyaya ve Türkiye'ye bir kez daha tanıtmak istiyoruz. Projeden çok büyük temennilerimiz var, umutlarımız var. Nuh'un Gemisi projesi.
Everything was in place for the excavation to start in 2020, but what put a stop to the process was COVID-19. For a while there were over 30,000 cases a day in Turkey, and here's the letter from TUTAP indicating that because of this, public institutions and organisations stopped their activities. Still, the work progressed in Turkey. Fikret continued negotiations with the Minister of Tourism and Culture, and here he is meeting the Minister of the Interior. Here he is meeting with the Governor of Agri, and it's in his province that this project is going to move forward. Fikret has also met with the Mayor of Doğubayazıt. Doğubayazıt is the city nearest the Ark site. And the Mayor visited our offices. Yes, we've built some administrative offices for the project. Here's the construction starting in July 2020. You can see the construction underway, and he's putting the ceilings in. And Fikret has now officially opened these administrative offices, and it's from here that the project will be administered.
Now we are on Noah's Ark. We make discovery here with the TUTAP and Patterson. Of course, until now we was want to make excavation. Our prisoner, his work on job, he will have permission for excavation on Noah's Ark. Of course, now Patterson also he's really want to make excavation on Ark. COVID-19 was stopped live, stop all of the world live. We hope this COVID will be finished very soon. We will have excavation on Ark. Now we make discovery here. We want to show all of the world Noah's Ark. I hope this COVID-19 will be finished. We will do really best thing because everybody want to see the Ark. I am sure in 2021, if COVID is finished, we will have excavation on Ark.
As Ron White said, the excavation will be in God's timing. Let me suggest that time has come. The process from here will be firstly thorough, comprehensive scans of the site with modern equipment. From these scans, a specific location on the site will be selected to start a small exploratory dig. The results of this initial dig will be used to fundraise to begin comprehensive excavations. The entire process will be documented to share with the world as the project progresses. To learn more about this project and to support the work, visit our website arkdig.com. If you have any questions or would like to contact us, you can also do this through the website. Thank you for your support.